Michael,
That's for sure.
I don't care, Michael, how the father wants to justify it. The father's also the president, and pardoning his son for federal convictions, I just think it's a terrible look for the United States.
It is a terrible look, but wasn't it expected, Peter? Didn't you think that that's why Joe Biden was hanging around right till the last minute? It's unprecedented, though, to give cachet to your son all the way back to 2014 for deeds he committed or may have committed. It's a terrible look. And in a sense, he's pardoning himself, Joe Biden, because all of Hunter's deeds were done in conjunction with him, including all of the crooked receipts of $20 million to entities untraceable until recently. And it's a terrible look. And I think history will judge Joe Biden as one of the worst ever United States presidents ever, and this being fitting cap to that.
I think it's acts of corruption all the way through to the Oval Office. Let's go to Syria. The government there has launched airstrikes on Aleppo after the city was seized by rebels. There's also those reports that Iran-backed Iraqi fighters have entered Syria to provide assistance to Bashar al-Assad, that's the president. Kosher, the last thing we need is another firestorm in this region. How's it going to play out?
Indeed, I think the unpredictability of expanding war zones is what we're seeing, whether it's cross-border or it's internally. Right out of the gate, it's obviously very sad because something like 7 million people have fled the region, 500,000 people have died with this internal strife that's been going on between the rebels and Assad. In terms of cross-border, it's also showing that as Russia and Iran and Iraq and all these places are stretched and their focus is elsewhere, there was an opportunity for the rebel forces to come in, and I think just more of a mess to come until Trump comes in, and even beyond that, because he certainly doesn't have a magic wand.
Now, this is an international panel, Michael, but this one's got a bit of a play out in Australia. The convener of the Muslim Vote political movement in Australia, this is the one that's targeting Labor seats at the next election, but part of a global movement. He has said he doesn't care if Peter Dutton is the beneficiary of their activity if they throw out these Labor cabinet ministers in Western Sydney. He says they've been taken for granted by Labor for far too long, and that if the Liberals were inadvertently returned to power, it would demonstrate the impact of their movement. What do you make of this?
Well, in a sense, he's right, and that they live these fringe groups by the doctrine, the worse the better. And I think the Muslim vote in Western Sydney is overplayed. I still think Burke, Bowen, Clare and Cusick will all get back. But I think that Peter Dutton has other surer roads to victory. If he's relying on the Muslim vote in Western Sydney, he's going to be surely tested. I think the Green political party's demise, the possible demise of even the Teals because of inflation and energy blackouts. I mean, if there are blackouts in New South Wales and Victoria, Peter, that's bigger than the Muslim vote.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think that this is a multi-election strategy. That's exactly what happened in the UK, wasn't it, Kosher?
Yes, in the UK and in the US, I think Michigan is something that's going to be studied for a long time to come. And it's just, I think when there's a coalition of the fringes, which is what the left side of politics has really leaned in on, you'll see that those fringes fraying. And I think that's what's happening here.
Spot on. We'll leave it there. We'll catch up with you both next week.